The Leading with Audacious Confidence podcast is brought to you by the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau.
During our interview, Eva Medilek was so thoughtful, so transparent, so deep, and she got really personal. She shared her framework for active listening, her own personal story of being a driven leader and how it negatively impacted her marriage. But we also went into DE&I, creating psychological safety and inclusive environment. Listen, this was jam-packed, so listen to the end. You're going to enjoy it.
Welcome to the Leading with Audacious Confidence podcast. Our mission for the show is to support leaders who are climbing that ladder of success with warnings, practical tips, and techniques from leadership experts to highlight not just what it takes to be a leader in this age, but in the process, build your confidence to show up more powerfully in your role. I'm your host, Alicia Couri, founder and CEO of Audacious Concepts, Inc., a boutique consulting firm providing audacious solutions to nagging and persistent people issues clogging the revenue pipeline of your organization. From optimizing talent to reducing conflict and improving communication, our brain science, people data tools, and expert coaching help you find the elegant solution to get the job done with more ease and less stress. Now, let's join in on the conversation. On our show today is Eva Medilek. Did I say that correctly, Eva?
Absolutely.
Welcome. Yay! I've been practicing.
Yeah.
Because I know that I bungle people's last names because I am originally from Trinidad. So sometimes my Trini accent kind of weaves its way in there and I pronounce things incorrectly. So want to make sure I get that right.
Well, you got it right. So thank you.
I listened to your podcast and I got it right. So let me tell you about Eva. Eva is an amazing woman. And she's so open and honest. And let me give you her bio real quick. Eva Medilek is a certified high performance coach, international speaker, #1 best-selling author, and cultural inclusivity trainer. We're going to talk about all of that. She has worked with men and women in the areas of personal development, leadership, inclusive intelligence, and mastering habits for success. Most recently, Eva is a radio talk show host on Voice America's Influencer channel. Her show, What's Important Now, Making Time for What Matters Most, brings to light hot topics and guests that focus on important matters facing us today. Being a leader in today's world demands more than leadership has demanded in the past. What had worked before is no longer working today, at least not all the level it once had. It's time for that next level in your leadership. It takes courage to tell the world what you are about and how you're thinking. Doing it more consistently will build confidence within yourself and in your communities. I agree with that. Taking bold, courageous action, you'll develop resiliency in taking on major tasks and challenges that will bring more influence and impact to your leadership. Welcome, Eva. There's so much to unpack.
Wow, that was a lot.
That was a lot. Yeah, I know. Every time someone reads my bio to me, I'm like, who is that person?
Who is that?
Who is that? So we're going to get deep. We're going to go into some stuff, but we're also going to have some fun at the end of this. So you ready?
Yes, ma'am. Let's do
it. So I want to ask, because you had this real estate career, you were building your real estate empire. And I want to ask, what happened to transition you from real estate to coaching? And I know there's a deep story behind that. And I just want to tell the viewers and the listeners, I'm not trying to get all up in her business. There's a lesson in here that I really want people to pay attention to. So share with us why did you take that turn in your career?
You know, it's interesting. There was a commercial that used to air when I was in college, and it was a perfume commercial. And it had this woman come out in 3 different outfits. The first one was a business suit with money. The second one, she had a frying pan. And in the third outfit, she came out in a ball gown. And the jingle went, and it was a really catchy jingle. I can bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan, and never let you forget you're a man because I'm a woman. And the tagline was the 8-hour perfume for the 24-hour woman. So basically, we were expected to work 24 hours a day, but and work ourselves to death, but at least we'll smell good as we're working ourselves to death, right?
Right.
And so those subliminal messages, especially that women get, that we have to be it all
and do
and
it all,
do
and
it all,
Mm-hmm.
and in order to have it all. So
and look effortless doing
yes, and still be the wife, the mom, the whatever, the good life partner. And when I was building my real estate, entrepreneurial real estate business, I'll say, I was still working my day job by my profession as a dental hygienist. So I was a dental hygienist since I was like 19 years old. And doing that by day, working the real estate whenever I had a spare moment, and cooking, shopping, laundry, all of it. And at one point, my health started to break down. I was always exhausted, tired, frustrated. And my communication with my husband started to get a little salty, if you will. We were impatient with each other, snapping at each other, because I was working myself to death. I was burnt out, overwhelmed, exhausted, mentally, emotionally, physically. I couldn't even stay awake to watch TV or Netflix and chill. None of it happened. And then one day I remember looking through his phone for some photos of one of our real estate projects. And that's when I discovered my husband was falling in love with someone else. And it was in that moment I realized that everything I had been working for, you're building an empire for your family, for your legacy, so that you can do fun things with the people in your life that are important to you. And I knew I could lose it all. I was in danger of losing it all because I had prioritized work and success without prioritizing the very people I wanted to work and be successful for. And it was in that moment. Yeah. And in that moment, I realized that I shared the responsibility for his infidelity. I didn't go into the victim.
Let's pause on that for a moment, because that is so huge. There is his actions, but he didn't get there on his own.
Exactly.
And I think that's missed a lot. People go immediately into blame. They go immediately into accusations without recognizing, well, what was my role in this situation? And oh my gosh, that's huge. And you said some really big things too. You were working, trying to persevere. And so many leaders are overwhelmed with the workload, everything that's coming at them, everything that they have to do, and feeling this, I have to do it. I have to be the one. I have to be there. And what is falling by the wayside? Are you at home? Cost? At what cost? Are you at home? Are you snippy with your kids, with your spouse, with your significant other? Are you short-tempered? Are you completely exhausted? There's just before we got on, I was saying, I wanted to get into the personal side a little bit, because we bring our whole selves to work and we take our whole selves home, and each one affects the other. And so people talk about balance and all this kind of stuff, but it's not just thinking balance. It's thinking, who am I being in this moment at work, and who am I taking home to my family that's supposed to be so important to me? So that's
spot on.
Why I wanted you to share that, but you took radical responsibility.
Who am I being as I am building?
As I'm building, who am I being as I'm building?
Exactly. Yeah. And what I realized was my family, I was putting so much of myself into building my legacy, if you will, and that need for generational wealth, that my family was getting what was left over of me, and there wasn't much left at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And how you do one thing is how you do everything, just like you said. So I really had to, both of us really had our come to Jesus moment, if you will, is, are we going to take this breakdown and turn it into a breakthrough, or will it lead to a break up? And that was the scary part. We didn't know what would happen, but what we did commit to was doing everything we can to focus on the relationship that we both desired and deserved, not on the person. And that was the shift for me. Our commitment was to the relationship, not to
each other,
the relationship with this man, because people are human. We make mistakes, and we get really disappointed when our expectations aren't met. However, when you're both working to have a relationship that is open, honest, compassionate, understanding, forgiving, whatever it is, you have that common goal. Like, this is how I want to feel and be in a relationship. And that's what we focused on.
How did you handle the infidelity? Like you said, you took responsibility, but there must be a wealth of emotions that you had to either contain or reframe, or like, how were you able to take responsibility and manage your own emotional or feeling of betrayal?
Yeah, it felt like a punch in the gut, actually. I really thought I was going to pass out. But here's the thing that I know about my husband. If you had told me, Alicia, that my husband would cheat on me, or I would grow a third eye, I would be buying extra makeup for my third eye. I know him as a human being to be one of the most integrous people I know. And my first thought, honestly, was, wow, what did you do to have a man of such high integrity think that this was his only option?
Wow.
I swear that was my first thought. My second thought was, this is going to be a really great story to tell one day. So there was a range of emotions. Back to what you were saying. Yeah, I was hurt. I was scared. I was really, really scared, because he's my second husband. It took a lot for me to even entertain the fact of getting married again. And but I really looked at how I was being. And do you ever, say to yourself, as soon as I make a certain amount of money, as soon as the business gets soon as, then we can work on, then I will eat better. Then I will work out. Then we can work on our marriage. We have time eventually. Well, eventually came as a punch in the gut to me, because I thought, we have time. I know there's problems. We'll get to it.
Once we get through over this hump, once I get over this hump with the business, we'll go on that vacation, or we'll do this, or we'll talk more, or we'll, Yep.
Well, yeah. So I always like to say that my husband's infidelity saved our marriage.
Yeah.
Because I got to look at me really, really deeply. And I don't want any of your listeners to think that he got off the hook, because he didn't.
Because he had to have his own responsibility for his own actions.
Exactly.
Face those consequences too. But the thing that I want to, and I'm not going to belabor this point, because there's so much more juicy stuff we want to get to, is, he, when you said this is his only option, what did I do for this man of such high integrity, that this was his only option, his only kind of escape? And the thing about infidelity, sometimes people always say, oh, you're a dog, you're just being a man, and all these things. But there is something wrong in most cases, not all cases. There are those who just do it for the sake of doing it. It's fun. But in those cases where someone's really struggling, and then there's someone else that understands the struggle that they're going through, it's not like they just decide, oh yeah, this is there's a struggle over there too. And, but yes, he had to also have a real eye-opening moment of, God, what am I doing? And I do love this woman. How can we make this work? Yes. So I
mean, it could have been drugs. He could have turned to drugs. He could have turned to alcohol. It could have been anything. It was, I looked at it as, we were both hurting in the relationship, but we were hurting separately, not together. And, would I have been as upset if he had become an alcoholic, or if he had become a drug addict, or if he became abusive? I mean, there's so many different paths. This was the path of infidelity for him to get what was missing that I wasn't fulfilling.
That you weren't fulfilling. And that's sometimes there's a parable in the Bible that talks about the rich man when he came to Jesus and asked what he needs to do to get into heaven. And Jesus said to give up everything that you have and follow me. And I heard a minister once describe that as that was the thing that was important to him, his riches. So that was the thing that he knew would impact that man the most, because he did mention, he's like, he came to Jesus, he says, yes, I obey the commandments, I do this, I do that. So he was saying all the things that he was doing. He said, yeah, but give up all your wealth. So the infidelity was the thing that would have shifted you, that would have impacted you. Like you said, whether if it was drugs or alcohol or something else, would it have impacted you that much? So sometimes the very thing that we need to kind of slap us into reality is what we're faced with. And we can't turn a blind eye to it. We need to face it and take responsibility for our part in it. Anyway.
Yeah. And, and I'll just tie a bow around that. Like, would it be easier for me to forgive him if it was alcoholism than infidelity? We've got to look at it that way too, because people think infidelity is the ultimate betrayal and that's it. But there's so many forms that you can be betrayed in. And I looked at it like, this man was hurting so much and I'm hurting this much. And so, how I really got into coaching after that was through our journey of healing and creating a better relationship than we had.
And you worked with someone.
Oh, yes. We worked with a therapist at first, and then we worked with coaches. Coaching is powerful. I'll just put it out there.
Powerful.
But one thing my husband said to me as we were seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and getting to the other side, he's like, you've got to help more people the way you've helped me, because what you did for me, how you stood for me to the best parts of me, you get to do this for other people. And the first thing I said to him, I was like, I'm gonna have to share the story. I can't hide the fact that this happened for us. And you've got to be okay with me sharing it. And so what you notice as I share it, I don't share it to throw him under the bus. I share it in a way of how my behavior was a contributing factor to that breakdown in our marriage.
Absolutely. And that's what led you to coaching. To my original question. Let's just
meanwhile, back at the ranch.
We close that loop. So people aren't out there. When you asked the question at the beginning. So we closed that whole journey led you into coaching and some of the powerful work that you're doing. So I applaud you for that, working with leaders. Because you see the whole person. You see not just the person that's showing up at work every day, but the person that's also going home to help bring balance or help bring perspective into that person's life so that they are showing up for themselves and for the things that are important. And I love that you shared all the little nuggets of the signs and the symptoms. So if you missed any of them, go back and listen again so you can pick them out, because if you're experiencing any of those things, it's time to reach out to someone, reach out to a coach, reach out to a therapist, reach out to someone and say, you know what, I think I may be struggling with something and I need some help. Now, there's another story about not just getting into coaching, but how you ended up in high performance coaching. Because there's a difference. There's the coaching, and now you're really looking at helping people take it to that next level. Why high performance?
Well, I started out coaching people in real estate investing, because we were so successful. And then I realized that a lot of people were getting the knowledge and not taking the action. And there were a lot of fears behind that. So I went more into life coaching. And then after the incident with my husband, I focused on relationship coaching. And high performance coaching. I was trained by Brendon Burchard. He wrote the book, High Performance Habits. And one of my coaches had us read that book. And it's just so landed and resonated with me about how we can set ourselves up to win at home, at work, and in our community. And it's all about the little habits, the way if you look at it this way, if you've ever seen a NASCAR race or the Indy 500, you notice those cars are racing at dangerously high speeds, really trying to finish the race, win it, hopefully without crashing and burning. That's high achieving, right? And high achieving is not high performing, but these are high performance vehicles. And I remember when I would see the lead car pull over and stop for a pit stop, my first thought would be, aren't other people going to pass you up? Why you stopping now? You're going to lose. But what I didn't see was that it was necessary to take a pit stop so that the car can continue to race at its highest performance without breaking down, before the tires go flat, before the engine cracks, before the spark plugs, whatever. I don't know cars. But my point is, in high performance, imagine, most high achieving people, and I was too, that was my breakdown. I was always racing, continuing to go, and I never stopped for a pit stop until I broke down and had to, because my health was failing. My relationship was, in breakdown and blowing up.
Track for you. They had to bring the tow truck on the track, drag it out.
Exactly. And we were crashing and burning. And so high performance looks at the pit stops, if you will, or high performance habits that you need to incorporate into your life and business so that you are operating on your highest and best self in every area of your life. Because how you do one thing is how you do everything.
I love it. What was the book called again?
High Performance Habits.
All right. I love it, because one of the books I read recently that I really loved too was Atomic Habits, talking about those minute habits that you do to actually get to that too. So that's I got to put that on my list. High performance habits.
And so when the invitation came to apply to be certified in that high level of coaching, because Brendon Burchard coached Oprah, he coached Usher, he coaches Olympic athletes, and I'm like, I want to be a world-class coach too. I don't want to be a regular old coach who just comes to you and says, so what's going on? What are we talking about today? But these are strategic habits that actually you create, because we support what we create. We never fully are enrolled in what someone else tells us we should be doing, right? And shooting on us. You should do this, you should do that. Like, yeah, I know. And you go on your own. But
I had one of those situations yesterday.
Somebody was shitting on you, or you shitting on yourself?
They were shitting on me.
Okay, they were shitting on you. And you know how you feel when like, yeah, okay, thank you, bye now. Who asked you? But the power of coaching is that it's a creative process that helps people find what brings you to your best and highest performance level. And how do you incorporate that into your daily habits so that you have as much energy mentally, emotionally, physically at the end of the day than you started out. So your family is getting like, hey, what's up? What are we going to do now? What's for dinner? How can I help? All this, instead of like me, I used to be like, I got to sit down. Can you give me a drink? And then, and then I'm snoring on the couch.
You're done for the day. Yeah. I will admit that I do work a lot. And I am in the building process. So I know that there are things that need to be done, but I also do my best to, when my kids, even if I'm as long as I'm not in an interview like this, even if I'm on a Zoom call and they walk in, I acknowledge them, and I, try to take the time throughout the day, because I do work. I have a home office and I do work from home, and they're home. So I take the time to go into their rooms. What are you doing? How are you doing today? What's going on? To connect and stay connected with them.
Beautiful.
Because I can be at the end of the night, like completely zonked, but I make sure I check in with them. And I know we can always do more, right? We can always do more, but, I tell them, if you need anything, get me before this hour in the evening, because after that, the brain is done.
But imagine if you could set yourself up throughout the day so that your brain is not done.
Yeah. But like I said,
that is powerful. I mean, I never knew that was possible.
That was
and I started and I was like, there's no way this is going to work.
No
way.
I've experienced that, where it's like, you're just as energized and you're not burnt out by the time you get to bed. It's just like flopping in. I have both those days, I have both days where you're just really managing your energy throughout the day, managing your time throughout the day, and just being excited with what you're doing, and giving everybody, the best of you.
And that's what I love about high performance, because it's not high achieving, but it's consistency. Consistency of, we can call them habits, we can call them pit stops, but and they take literally 2 to 5 minutes. That's how easy it is. And if you've ever seen that YouTube video of a pit stop in 1978 on a racetrack compared to a pit stop now, in 1978, it was literally 60 seconds for a pit stop, and it felt like forever. In 2000, I think the video was 2018, it was 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Because it was a team that changed all the tires, gave them something to drink, and they were back out in the track literally in 8 seconds. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Because and they've changed the bolt. I mean, this is getting into, so now it's not, like 6 bolts that you're undoing and redoing. It's like one. It's one and you're done.
It's way more efficient now, and we can bring that into our lives as well.
And that's the benefit of high performance coaching. It brings efficiency into what you're doing. You talked about relationship a few moments ago, and you said that there are 5 relationship styles. Could you break those down for us, the 5 relationship styles, and then how? Well, let me ask that question. I'll get to my secondary question.
Yeah, well, the relationship styles are really the habits, patterns, and beliefs and behaviors that we bring from our early life experiences into our adult lives that can damage or sabotage who we want to be and the relationships we want to have, how we relate, I say, because it's not just an intimate relationship with your kids.
Relationship is everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Even with your pets. What's your relationship?
My pet. Yeah, I had to lock her out. But anyway, my point is there are 5 distinct styles, and I just created an acronym out of the word style. But the study is based on the work done by Milan and Kay Yerkovich, who wrote a book called How We Love. So I just want to give them props for the framework. So if you take the word style, style, the first style is seeks to please. The second is tries to control. The Y is yo-yos back and forth, more of a vacillating style. L is looking to accept blame. And E evades emotions and likes to kind of avoid, the evader, I call it. And so, yes, we all have those evaders in their lives who just don't want to deal with it. They don't want to cry. They don't want to see you cry. Can we just move on? And so one of the foundations that I do with my clients is I have them take the relationship style assessment quiz that you can get on evamedilek.com/quiz to see what your style is, how it developed, and how it shows up today. How it developed from your early life experience, from the household you grew up in. You know, did you have critical parents?
Wow.
Like if you got a B on a test, why wasn't it an A? You know, that creates a certain style in us to really, you know, be those high achievers, always working for that next level, and never really learning how to have fun. Have fun. And or did you have, you know, men experience this a lot with the evader, like, boys don't cry, suck it up, be a man, you know, stuff those emotions. You don't need to feel them. Let's move on. And moms do this as well. If somebody has a boo-boo, you're okay. Stop crying. It's okay. We just stop the emotion and want to heal it right away. And that creates a barrier sometimes. And so the first thing I do with my clients is learn what their style is so that my coaching could be tailored with that style in mind.
So important. That's so important. Understand where they are right now.
Yes.
It's funny that you say, you know, parents, they stop crying. I always say this about my kids. I would tell them, even if they were crying, like they didn't want to do something and they're crying not to do, I'm like, you can cry, you can continue to cry, but just cry and do. Like, you can cry, but let's
it's a both and.
Yeah.
It's not a both and. It's not an either or.
It's not either or. We're doing both. You don't want to go somewhere. We have to leave somewhere and you don't want to leave and you're having fun and you're crying because you don't want to leave. Okay, you can continue to cry, but we're still leaving. You know? Walking, these kids walking behind me. It's like, yeah, but so they can, I allow them to express their emotion.
Yeah. But when you think of somebody my age who grew up being raised by Depression era parents, and their parents grew up with a certain kind of suck it up, tough it out kind of things, you know, that gets passed down through generations. Sure. And yeah, you know, each generation, I think, gets more enlightened and has more tools in the toolbox, if you will, to raise our children more openly, if you will. But you know, it's that early life experience that we had to role model behavior after, how we saw our parents relate to each other. Like my parents, I never, you know, they never were affectionate.
No intimacy.
You never saw that. And I, from a young age, was determined not to have that same level. My children are going to see me be affectionate with their dad and now, you know, their stepdad, and to the point where they go, "Ew, stop, you guys are nasty." Yeah. Like, that's okay. Yeah. But I want you to see that married couples need to express love to each other. And this is what it looks like: love and affection and kindness. And so, you know, it just evolves over time. But a lot of us have some of these barriers and blocks about even showing or expressing emotion because you were taught from an early age not to do that. It's
either inappropriate. PDA is inappropriate. Well, some of it still isn't. but you know,
DA isn't. Displays of emotion isn't. How public you get with it. There's
how public you get. Yeah. But display affection. Yeah. So now let's transition into the workplace, because we're not going to be displaying emotions and affection in the workplace in that way.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about relationship in the workplace and how this, how the assessment can help someone, not in your personal relationship, but still understanding who you are in the environment of work. So let's talk about that a minute.
Yeah, well, when you think about what triggers you, what could somebody say or do or a look that reminds you of the time your dad shut you down, or your mom did this, or somebody in school did X, Y, and Z, or a teacher or whatever? It's really about knowing the underlying feelings connected to the triggers.
Yeah.
You know, and in the workplace, you know, conflict happens when we don't feel seen, heard, or acknowledged, or fully listened to. I mean, I remember trying to talk to my dad, and he always had a newspaper up in front of his face. There was never any eye contact, never any of that feeling that he was present to what I'm saying. It was always that something to disconnect. And so imagine me, working in an environment where I go to talk to my manager or my supervisor about something, and they're on their emails.
And they don't
they're
look up.
checking their text. And I still feel that same level of hurt that I felt as a 12-year-old talking to my father.
It's triggering.
Yeah, it's triggering. And it may cause certain behaviors. It may cause me to shut down and back off and not try. Or it may have certain behaviors attached to that. So that's why it's important to know yourself before you can grow yourself.
Oh, that is like my mantra. You got to know yourself. Yes. And there's so many people who are resistant to knowing themselves, truly, really digging deep.
Scary. It's scary.
But there's so much beauty in it. And there's so much freedom in it, because even the things that are like in your dark closet that you don't even want to look there, you don't even want to see what's behind there. There's some powerful opportunities there for you when you unpack it and really understand why it's there.
Yes. And it's the awareness. It's like, what is that thread from your past that's still impacting and damaging your present and your future? And once you recognize it, it's like, this reminded me of the feeling I had when da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And now I get to shift. How can I show up as the best version of myself? What questions do I need to ask? I'm a fan of asking open-ended questions. And I would make sure in that manager meeting, like, would there be a better time for us to have this discussion when you can be fully present?
Yeah.
To what I'm saying.
Yes.
Exactly. Is now the right time? And I do the same thing, in my marriage. I need to talk to you about something. When would be a good time to do that? So that we are fully present, because I still get that same trigger when I'm talking to my husband and a text comes in and he leaves my gaze to see what the text is. And then he starts answering it. And that's when I want to jump down his throat and strangle him. And I realized that, I'm in this work. He's not.
Yeah.
We did the work that we needed to do, but, he will tell you in a minute, coaching, that's your world, right. God bless you, you do you. And so it's up to me to love what is and to accept what is and not want him to be different, but ask for what I need in the time. And that's the key. Instead of me getting resentful, because we did our love languages test, right? Instead of me being resentful, ask for what I need. At work, if you're not getting what you need, how do you powerfully advocate for yourself?
Yes. And one of the assessments that I do with my clients is a cognitive assessment, which helps them understand what their natural instincts are for doing. And a lot of misunderstandings can also come from not just the affect, the feelings, but also that cognitive part, because you have certain cognitive needs that have to be met as well. And if that person has a different cognitive need, that it can create conflict when you don't even realize that the conflict, that it's there. So there are so many layers and levels of understanding yourself and understanding someone else that you're probably not even aware of. And so seeking out people like Eva, like myself, who use these tools to get deeper, to get into some of the things that you're not even aware of, can help bring a lot of clarity to some of the behaviors and some of the things that's happening in the office, at home. I can't tell you how many, and this probably happens to you too, how many times you're like, oh my gosh, like these aha moments. It's like, that's why this is happening. And so now with that awareness, you're at choice, you're at really conscious choice to make different decisions instead of just operating from that, reacting out of the subconscious, just, they did this. So, you know what, I'm not even going in there anymore because he wouldn't even look up at me.
I'm doing some work, some corporate work with some leaders at Fidelity. And we set up this listening framework. I call it, well, the company that I work with for them, they call it LRA, but in my own personal work, I call it LAPI. You want to listen, acknowledge, paraphrase, and inquire. And there are specific skills that are built into that. And I can't tell you how many people, in the corporate setting, I did this framework with my 14-year-old daughter and it worked great. Or I tried it at home with my spouse or my partner. And, it's not only when I'm working with managers and associates in a corporate setting, but these are transferable skills that really enhance your communication and understanding of each other's differences. And that's how we create safe, psychologically safe, inclusive environments, is by following some of these frameworks, because we're bringing some of our history that hasn't been that great into who we are being at work and at home. And so developing the skills to create safe, inclusive environments in your own home and in the corporate environment and at work is very powerful.
Yes. And I think it's so important, because you're segueing into another question that I wanted to talk about, which is about biases and diversity, equity, and inclusion, because you do some of that work too. But the thing is, we all have biases. We all want to be included. And so when we start calling things like, okay, we have this inclusion mandate for DE&I. So we can no longer do this, but we're doing this. Well, you've just excluded a whole bunch of other people when you've just made that shift. Inclusion is not about taking one thing away from one group and giving it to another so they feel like they belong, but it's about hearing and understanding everybody and allowing everybody to have a place. And I feel like some things are getting skewed in the workplace. What do you think?
And you want that place to feel safe.
Right.
Just giving me, you, whoever, a seat at the table is not the same as giving us a voice at the table. And how are our voices being received and heard? We may be in the room, but how are you treating us when we're in the room? How are the conversations creating a psychological safety for historically minoritized or oppressed individuals? And it is about safety. We may be there, but we may not feel safe. Be, bringing our best, bringing our authentic self, bringing our way of being into that same room. Like, thank you for letting us in. We appreciate that, but we still feel we still don't feel fully seen, heard, and acknowledged now that we're in the room. And that's the nuance, I think, is in the next step or next level of what an inclusive environment really means and feels like to the people that you are intending to include.
Yes. And let me ask you something a little controversial too, because is it just about making sure that everyone has the right pronouns, everyone has the right wording and language, or is it deeper than that?
I think it's the feeling. I can call. Yeah. I mean, yes, you show respect using the right pronouns. You show respect, learning how to pronounce someone who doesn't have a Anglo-Saxon name properly without making them feel weird, odd, or different because their parents gave them the name of an African king or queen. It's really about how does that person feel? Are they feeling safe? How can I create safety, psychological safety. I'm not talking about safety for your physical health and
Physical,
well-being.
right.
You know, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But psychologically safe to bring their culture, to wear their hijab. I always say that wrong. You know, we all have names that are pronounced differently. What is the effort like? We all have different hair.
The thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's psychological safety without making those people feel different.
Anyone feel different, because
Yes.
it's getting to know the person, getting to know who they are, like that brings them in more than, you know, just telling everybody, yeah, this person's coming in, make sure you say this and that and the other, and you don't say this and that and the other, right?
Yeah,
it's about creating a culture and an environment where people genuinely want to know everyone and understand your story. I want to know and understand you and be open to hearing and not feeling like I'm just here because, you know, there's
perfunctory. It's performative and perfunctory.
Exactly.
And I'll say a little bit extra when it comes to listening to the stories of minoritized and traditionally oppressed communities' experiences. You know, listening is a skill that doesn't involve you agreeing, disagreeing, or saying that you understand, or trying to sprinkle love and light and bypass it. You know, I'll share a quick story. When I was in Germany last year, we went to this little all white town. And normally I'm in Berlin. It's very cosmopolitan. You see everything. And I don't feel any different except for trying to speak German badly. And so we went to a little town where my sister-in-law lives. So I was with my husband and my mother-in-law. And I decided to go exploring some of the shops on my own. Now, clearly, I did not belong there. And I was getting these stares. And so I have a Facebook group called The Intimacy of Race. So I did a post immediately about how I felt being stared at. And obviously there's not anybody who looks like me in this town. And it's like, you know, that a spaceship dropped me off. And I shared that feeling because I was really weary and tired at that point. Like, stop looking at me like I'm different. Like, And in the Facebook group, my group, I was getting, they're staring because you're a gorgeous goddess. They're staring because you're beautiful. They're staring because you're tall. And I was like, can you all just acknowledge my lived experience?
Right.
So it's my group. So it's for me to teach them, but stop bypassing what I felt and just acknowledge what I'm sharing. And we do that because we're uncomfortable with other people's discomfort. And we want ourselves to feel better. So we're trying to make you feel better. I didn't need anybody trying to make me feel better at that point. I just needed to feel heard and my lived experience acknowledged for what it is. And that's one way to create psychological safety, because what it would do for me if it wasn't my group was like, I'm not sharing anything with these people anymore. They just don't get it. So imagine people you work with sharing a lived experience with you, and you bypassing it or shutting down or try to pretend you understand. Like, girl, I was a white girl in an all Jewish community, so I know what that feels like. Like, no, you don't. Like, stop trying to compare your experience to mine. Just be with that person's story and lived experience without trying to interject yourself into it. And that creates psychological safety. Mic drop.
Whoa. Yes. Definite mic drop. Because we do that because we're trying to alleviate our own discomfort and everyone else's discomfort around, instead of just listening and being empathetic. You don't even have to say anything. Sometimes I just give the care, you know, like on Facebook, the little care heart with the thing, because it's like, oh, you know, I just want to hug you right now. But I don't have to comment if I don't know what to say. It's sometimes even with grief, because people process grief differently. So when someone is sharing the death or the passing of someone, I don't always know what to say to them. So I'll just, give the prayer hands or the care, because it's sometimes they just want to be acknowledged.
It's like the
Sometimes
acknowledgement.
They just want to, right. So if you don't know what to say, sometimes you don't have to just acknowledge, but you don't always have to put your 2 cents into it.
And that's why we have the framework, because it is a skill.
Yeah.
You want to listen and you want to acknowledge.
Repeat the framework again.
Yeah. It's LAPI. It's my LAPI. LAPI. Listen, acknowledge, and then you want to paraphrase. Now, paraphrase is not parroting or restating, but just restate so that the other person knows you understand.
I heard you.
That you heard you, and this is what you heard. Because sometimes it's like, no, that's not what I meant. You might have heard me wrong. Let me try this again. And it gives the opportunity for them to know that you understand. And then, depending upon a situation, you want to ask a powerful inquiry, like, what do you need right now in this moment? That's it.
Yeah.
Not even what can I do? Because it's not always about you, but what do you need? You know what? Well, I need Jim over there to stop commenting on my hair every time I have a new hairdo. And I, I need
Catherine to stop touching it.
Yeah. But this is how we just, because people can get into their sob stories too. But the important part of the asking a powerful question afterwards is like, how do we move forward? Not how do we move past or move on, but how do we move forward? What would you like to experience instead? Who is the right person to talk to get this resolution so that you can advocate for what you need? And let's move this forward.
Yeah. It's all about keep it moving forward. Like I said, you could cry, but let's walk. Let's keep moving. Let's keep it moving.
Here's a tissue. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's keep going.
Wipe your snot. Let's go.
Well, we're going to have some fun. I have some rapid fire questions for you. You probably already answered a couple of them, but
I remember.
We're going to jump into this. So I want to know, what's the biggest leadership mistake that you perpetrated or was a victim of?
I think to really have open listening and not listening to formulate my response, but really listening to hear what the other person is saying. And staying fully present to what they're saying without me thinking, what do I say? What do I do? How do I
I'm reading a book right now on attention and how quickly and how often our mind wanders and how to bring it back into focus. It's really fascinating. What is the best leadership advice that you ever got that you still implement today?
It would be the one time I heard a coach say to someone else, I would never want a coach who gave up on me. And so it's really taking a powerful stand for the potential and the vision that you see in the people that you're leading, and help them see that.
I love that. Love that. So if you were a castaway on a deserted island, what 3 items you wished washed up ashore or was airdropped to you, and one could not be a cell phone? Things you can't live without.
Ooh, probably my false eyelashes. Priorities. I would say a comb to comb my hair. And moisturizer, because I cannot live without being fully moisturized all day, every day.
I agree with that one. Sunscreen.
But I will switch out the eyelashes, because that was a joke. But I would like a good book to read, actually.
So a library, you can have a library of books. It doesn't just
there you go. There you go. Because books keep me going when I feel like giving up.
Yeah.
They're really 100%. Powerful to keep me going.
100,000%. So here's a really fun one. If you were a song title or a song, what would it be?
So I'd have to think of a song already. I have to pass on that one because I'm having a brain fart. I'll get back to that one. If there's another one after that.
This is the last one.
Okay.
Hopefully by then you can think of a song.
Mm-hmm.
What are you reading right now, or what are your 3 top favorite books? Either one, either what you're reading now, or give me.
I just started listening to Think and Grow Rich, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I've had it for years, but I just started listening to that. So that's what I'm reading now. Nice. And the song title would be Invincible. It's Champions. It's Champions, but I know that the song, it says I am invincible in there.
All right.
But I love the lyrics that go, I am invincible, unstoppable, unbreakable, unshakable.
Yeah. All right. Mm-hmm. I love that. That's added to the song list. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so very much, Eva. This has been tremendous. You have been phenomenal. And I look forward to being a guest on your show.
Yes, that'll be fun. We're going to be coming to you live from Germany. So y'all have to tune into that one because we're going to continue the conversation, but Alicia is going to be on the hot seat.
Yes, I will. So thank you again, Eva, and for your openness, your honesty, for, everything that you've shared, all these tips, all these tools. And I encourage you to go to her website, Eva Medilek.com.
Yes.
That's Medilek. So evamedilek.com, and check out all the great resources she has there. And you can take the assessment there too, the relationship assessment. So this is Alicia Couri signing off for today. And I'd just like to encourage you to lead yourself, lead your teams, and lead your organization with audacious confidence. Until next time, we're signing off. Bye-bye.